Okay, I've been contacted this week by several people in Norway pointing out that the rape figures I used in my last video were misleading, as it was only assault rapes that were carried out exclusively by non-Western immigrants, a category that doesn't include domestic rape or date rape, something the news report didn't make clear, but which I'm happy to make clear now. And what this means is that those women who were attacked and raped in the street by strangers were the victims of non-Western immigrants, with the rapist in the video specifically citing his religion as justification and claiming that his religion entitles him to treat women any way he likes. Can anyone guess what religion that might be? I'll give you a clue. In countries where this religion calls the shots, a woman who's raped is likely to be charged with adultery and thrown in prison. She'll need 4 male witnesses to prove the charge, when the only male witnesses likely to be available are the rapists themselves. The testimony of women and non-Muslims is not allowed. In this way, by making it virtually impossible for a raped woman to receive justice, the religion of Islam condones and encourages rape. Right now, an Australian woman is suing her own government for giving her inadequate consular advice about what might happen if she reported being raped in the United Arab Emirates. What did happen is that she was charged with adultery and thrown in prison for 8 months. She's lucky it didn't happen in Saudi Arabia, or she'd have had 100 lashes on top of it, or in Iran, where she might have been stoned to death. Now, there are many reasons why the religion of Islam impoverishes Western society, but the main one, in my opinion, is that it degrades and debases women. Except, of course, for left-wing women who happily degrade and debase themselves defending Islam, like turkeys defending Christmas. A woman in Islam needs to be covered from head to toe because men are not expected to exhibit any kind of basic self-control. I get a lot of correspondence from angry Muslim males, and I've lost count of the number of times I've been told that women, Western women, are asking to be raped because of the way they dress. No other religion teaches people to think like this. Recently here in Britain we've had a rash of Muslim gangs pimping and raping young girls in northern England. I do mean Muslim gangs and not Asians, as the media keep reporting. There are no Sikhs or Hindus involved in this, and to call them Asians to avoid naming the real problem is a slander on Hindus and Sikhs. These men do it because they regard non-Muslim women as subhuman trash. And this poison is coming directly from their religion, a religion whose values are dictated and imposed by some of the most narrow-minded, psychotic human beings on this planet. And coming, as I do, from an Irish Catholic background, believe me, that's saying something. And it's not just white Western girls they target. Hindu and Sikh girls get the same treatment because they're not Muslims, so they too are regarded as trash. But nobody wants to name the problem. We keep dancing around it with euphemism and evasion for fear of causing offence. Well then, I'll name it, shall I? It's Islam. That's the problem. Good. I'm glad we've got that cleared up. All over the Islamic world, men are raised from the cradle to believe they have a perfect right to treat women any way they like. In Pakistan, where the Northern England rapists come from, 1,000 women a year are murdered in so-called honour killings, and a woman who tries to report a rape is likely to be raped again in the police station. They take the matter so lightly. Now, the fact that we import this mentality at all will be bad enough. But what compounds it, what makes it immeasurably worse, is our blind refusal to name the poison at the heart of it, the poison that drives it forward, which is Islam's fundamental view of women as inferior human beings. This is not just unacceptable, it's not just wrong, it's obscene. It's as obscene as any openly racist political platform, and it should be regarded with the same contempt. So why isn't it? Because it's easier for us to filter Islamic misogyny through a convenient multicultural lens that absolves us of all responsibility. It's easier to respect difference and celebrate diversity than it is to grow a backbone. And it's easier to pretend we stand for something and to wear our phony relativist virtue like a pathetic badge of honour than it is to tell the truth and name the poison. It needs to be named. It needs to be shamed. It needs to be confronted and challenged openly, loudly and often, without apology, until it's eliminated forever, for the sake of all humanity. And if we in the West won't do it, then who will? And yes, some Muslims will be offended, because some Muslims are always offended. But they'll be okay when they get used to it. Peace. In Europe today, one of the many unfortunate consequences of pandering to the bigotry of Muslim immigrants has been a rise in anti-Semitism. Not that Europe has ever needed much encouragement on that score. And this has breathed life into a whole host of previously dormant conspiracy casualties who would love to believe that Jews control the world. It seems like almost every day now I hear from somebody telling me that I should educate myself about Jews, how evil they are, how they manipulate everything so that they can control the world. Apparently Jews are responsible for all kinds of horrible things, including 9/11, well that goes without saying, and even the curse of multiculturalism. That's right. All those Jews who are being driven out of Europe by hate-filled Muslim immigrants are actually victims of a Jewish plot to destabilize the world so that they can control it, I guess. I don't know, I'm a little light on the details, but then most people are. Compared to the number of Muslims and Christians on this planet, not to mention Hindus and Buddhists, Jews are a handful of people. They're a tiny percentage of the population. Nearly half of them live in Israel, a country the size of a county, and more are being driven there every day, especially from Europe, where it's become fashionable to use the Israeli government's behavior as an excuse for the kind of open anti-Semitism we've become used to hearing from Muslims. At anti-Israel demonstrations in Europe, you're likely to hear calls for Jews to be gassed. We've even had the spectacle of a Dutch member of parliament in the front line of such an event. In Sweden, Israeli athletes can no longer even compete without being attacked by violent mobs because the police can't or won't protect them. Hate crimes against Jews outnumber those against Muslims, and many of them are carried out by Muslims for no other reason than they've been taught from childhood to hate Jews. Meanwhile, day in and day out, we have to listen to their endless hypocritical horseshit about Islamophobia. It's enough to make you want to throw up. I don't like some of the stuff the Israeli government does either, but I support Israel's right to exist and to defend itself against people prepared to use women and children as human shields. I no longer believe that the Israelis should give back Jerusalem. I still think they're holding it for a stupid reason, religion, and it doesn't get any more stupid than that. But experience has taught us that the Islamic mentality views any concession as weakness to be exploited further. And besides, too many so-called Palestinians seem less concerned with peace and freedom than with driving the Jews into the sea, so the bombings wouldn't stop. The whole world knows there could have been a peaceful settlement many times in the past, but for incompetent and corrupt Palestinian leadership. Now, in Gaza, they've saddled themselves with Hamas, a bunch of fundamentalist religious thugs who don't want peace at any price. For Hamas, the enemy is not Israel, the enemy is Jews. If you support Hamas, you support people who want to exterminate Jews, not for being Israelis, but for being Jews. And you support a culture where Jew hatred is bred right into the children. I hope you're proud of yourself. I think Israel's in the wrong place. I've said it before. It couldn't be in a worse place given the hateful mentality of its neighbours, but it's a bit late to do anything about that now. The fact that a Jewish state needs to exist at all, and it does need to exist, is an indictment of all humanity, and especially the Catholic Church, whose centuries-long programme of aggressive Jew hatred has been ingrained right into the European psyche so that it takes almost nothing to bring it out. And that's why, if I were a Jew, even a non-Zionist, peace-campaigning, liberal Jew, and there are plenty of them, I would want to see a strong Israel, because when push comes to shove, people simply will not stand up for Jews. We've seen it historically in Europe, and in the wake of the Islamic invasion, we're seeing it again today, especially from the self-styled anti-fascists. What a joke you people are. The truth can often be painful when you don't want to hear it, but you're going to bloody well hear it anyway. And the truth is that Jews have contributed more to humanity than any other group of people. Way more than Muslims, vastly more than Muslims. We're talking different planet more than Muslims. Jews receive a disproportionate number of Nobel Prizes, real ones I mean, not the bullshit peace one, because they're at the top of sciences, medicine, technology, you name it. Wherever there's progress in this world, you'll often find some Jew in there making all the difference. Israel today is a world technological leader, alone in the Middle East, like a diamond in a sea of mud. Compared to Jews, Muslims are passengers on planet Earth getting a free ride. Even the wealth of the Muslim world comes pouring straight out of the ground. If it didn't, they wouldn't have any. It's pathetic, and it's no wonder the Muslim world is so quick to petulant, childish anger. They must have a very poor self-image, and who can blame them? But they're the only ones who can do anything about it. They can choose to drag themselves into the 21st century and leave this filthy garbage behind, or they can carry on humiliating and degrading themselves with hysterical Jew hatred, and we'll carry on judging them on it as an embarrassment to the human race. I do hope that doesn't offend. As for you people who keep telling me that Jews control the world, you know, even if that were true, I would much rather that Jews control this world than Muslims any day, and so would every other sane person on the planet. But it isn't true, and I don't want to hear about it anymore if that wouldn't be too much trouble. So if you really believe that Jews are evil manipulators with their fingers in everyone's pie, or if you really believe that some sinister Jewish cabal is controlling you from above like a marionette, then please, don't tell me about it. Tell a doctor. But maybe not a Jewish one. Peace.